The U.S. Department of Energy is cleaning up the Oak Ridge Reservation of residual hazardous and radioactive contamination left over as a result of decades of nuclear energy research. Much of that work has been influenced by the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board, a citizens panel that provides independent advice and recommendations on DOE's cleanup operations. You're welcome to attend the meetings and be part of this important work. For more information, call us or visit our website.
New ideas for the board. Shelley, just let me know when you want to start.
You're free to carry on.
All right, we're going to start with opening remarks. Ms. Melissa, you want to start off with that?
Good evening. Yes, this is a special night. Over 2 years. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it's been over 2 years. And if for those of you who are here in person, you can see we've done some upgrades. We've done some testing. We think it's going to work great, but please, if you're at home, if you have any issues, let us know, and hopefully this will be the wave of the future. It'll allow people to make the option. If they can't make a full board meeting, they can at least call in and participate, and we can try to do both formats in a hybrid format. This also is like the kickoff for the year for our board. This is our annual planning meeting where we're going to go over some of our topics. Erin, she is our replacement for Dave Adler. She brings with us over 20 years worth of regulatory experience. So we're excited to have her. She'll be presenting our overview tonight. We also had some notable achievements at our last meeting. We have finished tearing down an old building that was in really bad shape at Y12, known as the Criticality Experiment Lab. That closed in 1992, so we've got that cleared off. We demolished the bulk shielding reactor at ORNL, which has been closed since 1991. This marks the first ever removal of a former reactor in ORNL's central campus. Our near-term goal is to clear out as many of these old reactors and labs in the central campus to open it up for space for reuse. We have many demolitions on the horizon. We'll need to space out and put that debris from the projects. We've been talking about this need for a long time with the board. We're happy to announce that we have signed an important document with our regulators that allows us to finalize the design for a new disposal facility. That is a very important milestone that's crucial for the future cleanup. Changing gears, we're proud of our contractor UCOR for its workforce development efforts. They just had their largest summer intern program this year. They pulled from 14 schools across the country. They offered many of those permanent jobs that graduated. And for the first time, they offered part-time jobs to students who are still in school. And this will help them to continue to get more experience and have them be ready for us when they graduate. So it's helping with workforce development. We're close to releasing our new 10-year plan. This will be really helpful for the board. It shares our goals and our objectives and timetable for our major projects from 2022 through 2032. It'll give a great picture of our strategies and what we're working to accomplish. So expect that in the future. Lastly, I want to highlight our monthly newscast. I don't know how many of you had a chance to see that. It comes on local community television channels, and episodes are also available on our YouTube channel. It's a great way to get the latest updates, variety of areas for our program. And so far, the first few episodes have featured excerpts on some of our board members. So if you've not seen it, Shelley, I think, sends out links to those. You might want to look at those. They're really fascinating. Thank you again for serving on the board, and I look forward to the upcoming year. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Leon.
Thank you, ma'am. Since this is our first hybrid meeting, if you can, let's just have a couple of housekeeping things. Number one, if you have a question and you're online virtual, please raise your hands. That way we can see the icon on the screen and we'll call on you just in case more than one. If you're in the room here, we'll raise our placard cards with our names on it, just like we normally do this position, and we'll get called. So that way we kind of keep it over the top of the meeting. John, can you hear us good online?
Well, he had said in the chat, he could hear us.
Okay.
I hear you good, Leon.
Good deal. Thank you. So if anyone online on the virtual access has a question, just raise your hand and we'll try to call in. So we'll go straight to our agency representatives. I don't see Christoph online. Do we have someone from TDEC? Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm Krista for tonight.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Heather Lutz. I'm a manager over with TDEC, and as always, we're delighted to be part of the tri-parties and working with DOE to continue on this cleanup path. And if there's anything that we can do for you, let us know.
So much for attending. Anyone EPA? You may be muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Hi. I'm Samantha Urquhart Foster with the EPA, and we're just so excited to finally have the EMDF rod finalized, and are really looking forward to a lot of achievements this fiscal year. And we really appreciate the support of the ORSAB, and feel free to contact me if you have any input that you'd like for us to consider. Thanks.
Thank you for attending tonight. We'll go straight into our OREM program overview, and we'll have Miss Amy introduce our speaker tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Erin Sutton serves as the Director of Quality and Mission Support Division for the Department of Energy's Oak Ridge Office for Environmental Management. In this role, Ms. Sutton is responsible for leading and directing a diverse team of professionals who support and enable the cleanup mission in Oak Ridge. Together, her team focuses on quality assurance, regulatory and environmental compliance, industrial and community outreach. As Melissa mentioned earlier, she has 20 years of experience. She has worked with multiple federal and state environmental regulation agencies and private sector environmental service companies. She holds a bachelor's in geology. Thank you. That's geology, and also a master's in environmental and engineering. Geology. Well,
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. Floor is yours.
Can you switch the slides? I can. Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you. Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming out for the annual meeting of the Oak Ridge Site Specific Advisory Board. Like she said, I'm Erin Sutton, the new Director of Quality Emissions. While she works on that. Yeah, so I'm sorry. You're good.
We'll let you tell a joke before you start your presentation.
So anyway, I would like you all to know that it's an honor to be here, to be able to support the largest volunteer cleanup action in the state of Tennessee, and most importantly, to serve the local process. From the state of Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, I know how important it is for the public and private stakeholders to come together on a regular basis to, target areas that could benefit from enhanced communications. It's so important to have such a diverse board, TDEC, EPA, public representation to support this effort, and I'm sincerely grateful for your time with me. Oh, we got the second one. Good. So, yeah, I got it. So I guess we need to go to page 2. This is 2. Yeah, okay. It says page 16. There we go. Back here? No, it was the one with the United States on the map. There you go. Great. So I'm going to give you a little background, not that you don't know anything that's going on out here, but the Department of Energy's Office of Environmental Management is a branch of the department that has been charged with addressing the legacy environmental contamination associated with nuclear sites across the United States. Facilities were used to support the Manhattan Project and the Cold War efforts and represent the largest environmental cleanup in the world. This map here highlights 15 sites where cleanup work is currently progressing. Work at each of these sites is varied, but generally includes maintaining safe,
compliant areas, disposition of transuranic and mixed low-level waste, remediating soil and groundwater, and also to deactivate and demolish excess facilities. Next slide, please. Oop, one backwards.
I don't know if you can change the camera, but I mean, I'm happy to be on the picture, but they might want to see Aaron.
To track the speaker. And this is some of our new technology.
I'll try and be quiet.
There we go.
So we're going.
We need to be on slide 3, so that's it. There, yeah.
Page 3. Yeah, if I could see that far, I'd be great.
Well, the Department of Energy's main focus is to positively impact the 3 main areas. Right here, we've got protecting human health and the environment, enabling critical DOE missions, and making clean land available for future use. So working in concert with the restoration efforts, DOE is prioritizing remedial efforts to support critical DOE missions, as well as giving back to the community through land transfers. Next slide, please. Oak Ridge is one of the 3 original sites. It is one of 3 original sites in the Manhattan Project. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began acquiring land in Oak Ridge in October of 1942. Throughout the following decades, the 3 sites, East Tennessee Technology Park, or the former K-25 site, Oak Ridge National Lab, and the Y-12 National Security Complex, they purified isotopes, conducted advanced research, manufactured weapons components, and enriched uranium. These activities created environmental legacies that placed the reservation on the national priorities list in 1989. Next slide, please. Okay. So a dedicated financial commitment is necessary to support the restoration, enabling to enable DOE continued missions and to give back to the community. Remedial efforts began back in 1989 and are projected to continue through 2047. Through fiscal year 2021, DOE spent $13.1 billion on cleanup, and another estimated $15.5 billion is required to complete legacy cleanup here. Congress continues to provide strong funding to support the cleanup operations in Oak Ridge with a shifting focus from ETTP as they finish up the soil and building remediation and moving it over to Y-12 and LRNL. Next slide. While the Department of Energy has invested a considerable amount of money for protection of human health and the environment, it's also important to note that this work also contributes significantly to the local economy. It's estimated that DOE's total operations provide around $7 billion in economic impact to Tennessee and creates approximately 43,000 jobs, full-time jobs per year. Approximately 20% of this impact is directly related to the environmental cleanup efforts that the Oak Ridge Office of Environmental Management completes. Next slide, please. The economic impacts aside, DOE has succeeded in addressing the hazards associated with hundreds of facilities across ETTP, Y-12, and ORNL. Oak Ridge became the first site in the world to remove a former enrichment complex, which involved removing nearly 500 structures spanning a total footprint of 13 million square feet. Now, the trained, experienced crews responsible for this historic accomplishment are busy deactivating and demolishing excess contaminated facilities at Y-12 and ORNL. It's anticipated that 400 additional structures will be removed from those sites in the years ahead. At ETTP, DOE's work has transformed the former enrichment site into a multi-use industrial park, a national park, and a conservation area. DOE successfully cleared away all previous facilities, transferred 1,300 acres to the community for economic development that are attracting new investments and business to the region. Through an agreement in principle that was just signed just last year, DOE is also working towards transferring 3,500 acres of scenic land to Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency for conservation and recreational. Next slide, please. While building demolition and soil remediation is ending at ETTP, work is transitioning to ORNL and Y12, where DOE has tremendous amount of demolition to tackle. This will reduce risks and enhance the health and safety of workers and the public. At Y12, massive deteriorating buildings are being torn down and infrastructure that will remove sources of mercury contamination from the environment is being built. At ORNL, DOE is demolishing contaminated facilities, eliminating waste inventories, and removing radiological risks. This work is also key in supporting the ongoing DOE mission. DOE is actively demolishing excess contaminated buildings at Y12, clearing land for the National Nuclear Science Security Administration to build new facilities that support national security. Cleanup at ORNL includes removing dilapidated buildings, addressing radiological risks, to open land for DOE's Office of Science to continue advancing its world-leading research. Next slide, please. It's really important to note that DOE's continuing progress is chiefly driven by the need to protect human health and the environment while supporting continued cleanup. The Environmental Management Waste Management Facility, Oak Ridge current on-site CERCLA disposal facility, is almost 80% full and is expected to reach its full capacity later this decade. DOE needed another low-level on-site disposal facility, now known as the Environmental Management Disposal Facility, or EMDF, to provide the disposal capacity required to complete cleanup at Y12 and ORNL. This project is vital to the success of the other cleanup activities across the reservation and will provide the infrastructure to enable cost-effective and efficient cleanup of Y12 and ORNL. Just last month, DOE, in conjunction with EPA and TDEC, signed a record of decision paving the pathway forward for the final design and ultimate construction of the new facility. Next slide, please. DOE's projects at Y12 continue to eliminate risk and support ongoing national security missions. Demolition of the former biology complex cleared land for Y12 to construct a new facility. By the end of the calendar year, this land will be transferred back to an NSA to be reused in a manner protective of the industrial worker. Next slide, please. Continuing on with Y12, crews have already begun demolition preparation efforts in former Manhattan Air facilities such as Beta 1, Alpha 4, and Alpha 2. These excess contaminated structures pose risks at the site and stand on land that can be reused to support national security missions in the future. Currently, crews have cleaned out the old, rusted, mercury-contaminated column exchange, or COLEX, equipment on the exterior of Alpha 4. This activity retrieved 6.5 tons of mercury and reduced a major threat to the environment. Crews have also tested decontamination methods to clean old mercury process piping and field tested a newly developed fogging fixative and application process aimed at controlling mercury vapors during future deactivation and demolition projects. Technologies like these will be essential as we continue tackling the heavily mercury contaminated buildings, Alpha 4, Alpha 5, and Beta 4. Next slide, please. Speaking of mercury, our other big project, DOE is currently building a Hull 200 treatment facility to reduce the mercury levels in East Fork Poplar Creek and to enable large-scale cleanup and demolition for Y12. DOE is investing upwards of $100 million. Is that still right? Over $100 million?
Right now.
Yeah, upwards of $100 million to push this water treatment plant to completion to support continued remediation. Next slide, please. Moving south on the reservation, the Oak Ridge National Laboratory is DOE's largest multi-program national laboratory, and it's one of the nation's most important research assets. While researchers there are conducting world-leading research in modern facilities on the east and west end of campus, there are numerous deteriorated and contaminated former research reactors and excess isotope production facilities in the heart of the ORNL campus that date back to the 1950s. Demolition will begin shortly on the bulk shielding reactor, the low-intensity test reactor, and the remaining hot cell from building 3026. Together, these projects eliminate risks at the site, clear land for future research missions, and enhance access to the graphite reactor, which is a component of the Manhattan National Historic Park. Next slide, please. Also at ORNL, work is progressing on the disposition of the large inventory of uranium-233. The remaining material requires processing to convert it into a form that can be shipped and disposed of off-site. Eliminating this material is DOE's highest priority at ORNL. Employees will process the remaining inventory using the hot cells in buildings 2026. The work to prepare this facility for hot cell processing was recently completed, and the readiness reviews have also been done. Hot cell processing operations are expected to begin by the end of the calendar year. Final slide. So the Department of Energy has made substantial progress in restoring the environment while creating tangible benefits for Oak Ridge. Reindustrialization efforts are transforming ETTP and the surrounding areas to deliver prime industrial space, creating a brand new national park and expanding conservation areas. Cleanup at ORNL and Y12 is focusing on reusing land in a protected manner to support research, defense, and security missions. Moving forward, DOE continues to actively work towards addressing the environmental legacy left behind from the Manhattan Project while giving back to the community that has supported it for decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from anyone in the room? Ms. Shoemaker.
What is the estimated completion date for the emergency treatment facility?
Right now, it's 2024. But that most likely will move to the right. So. Part of the challenge with that project is we're at ETP, we had the advantage of we were the landlords, you know. If we needed to build something, we just built it wherever we needed it. Moved things around. At Y12, we were not the landlord. And they have, well, it's a very important mission. It's a different mission than what we have. And we have to work around each other. And it's tricky. Yeah, it's just hard.
It's so needed.
It is very much needed. And there have been, you know, as you sure you're aware, anytime you start to dig, you get kinds of things that you did not realize were there. Or not the way you thought they were.
Yes.
And that has occurred with that project. So we have had some delays. To be quite honest with you, COVID, the supply chain management issues impacted us much more severely than we anticipated. The cost, for instance, if you noticed in the picture of the treatment facility, there's a lot of concrete and rebar. The cost of rebar has more than doubled in the last year. Nobody could have foreseen that cost increase just 2 years ago. Did not anticipate that. So more expensive, it takes longer, but it is under construction.
So you have funding.
Yes,
And-
that project was actually fully funded from the get-go. Money is the one thing we did not run out. Unusual, but
Mr. Hurd.
Knowing that Y12 is a security area, how difficult is it to get Nucor people in and out? What kind
into-
of clearances? You have to
So-
pass, or-
if you're familiar with Y12, there's outer perimeter, which is the main gate of on Bear. Getting in and out of that is just making sure people have badges.
Bad.
Working inside PIDUS, which is the
Is the-
just material controlled area. Imagine whatever your schedule and your costs are and multiply your schedule by 4 and your cost by 10. For a reasonable sized workforce to get into to do work in Alpha 4, trying to do right now. 100 people. 2 hours in the morning to get everybody in, 2 hours in the afternoon to get everybody back down. So there's 4 hours of a 10-hour day that are just shot. On top of that, all the safety and the plan of the day, everything else that goes into preparation work day. That's another hour maybe. Half your day is just getting in and out. That dramatically reduces the amount of work that we can get done. So we're working with Y12 is currently in the process of realigning Titus in hopes of at least getting some of the buildings outside, relocated, so that the fence will then be inside the building. Will be out.
Is there any chance of doing and maybe kind of lowering the classification on some of the areas?
No. And that's not our,
Yeah.
that's not our call.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Sharp.
So you kind of mentioned the mercury fogging, just say it's like a fixed event or something. You kind of explain like a high level, like how that process works and kind of what that
Is
is.
that when it's a spray?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a spray kind of adhesive that, you know, encapsulates it.
It's a two-step process. The first coat that goes on is red. And then the second coat will come back, the second coat on will be blue. And that way, as you're doing the demolition, if you see any red, you know, you need to go back and spray that or you need to reevaluate that.
So what process was kind of, is that like where we see like where they're spraying water onto it? Was that kind of like how they controlled the vapors prior? Or
We're not.
The water.
I just wasn't sure kind of something, so what spraying would look like water on slides, so.
It is.
They were spraying the water during demolition, dust suppression.
Okay.
And that's what it was. There's a problem with dust migrating off your construction sites, and therefore they're required to spray the water for the dust suppression for migration away from the demolition site.
And that was
Am I
in
correct,
the,
Roger?
This,
that was in HETP.
yeah,
That's how they
it
do
is.
Yeah.
It has been done up until now at all of our, at the biology complex, all the sites at ETTP.
2013.
That's pretty standard everywhere else. What is it?
Is this pretty new?
For the misting,
Yeah.
No. Not misting, but the
Yeah,
encapsulation.
the encapsulation, the mercury fogging system. So is this like the first time it's been tried like ever, or like are we kind of the first to use it?
but we will be able to use it on the scale that we're applying.
Okay.
One of the challenges we run into, we have an entire technology development program that looks at different technologies to try to control mercury, not just mercury, a lot of others. And one of the things we run into is proposals from groups or universities that say, you know, we did this in our lab and it worked great. They did it on their literally bench. Well, we have to scale that up to, you know, buildings that are 200,000 and 300,000 square feet. And for a variety of reasons, the majority of these technologies do not scale up. We are still trying to explore a lot of options.
It's been pretty successful so far.
We really haven't tried it yet on the scale where I would hesitate to say, I don't want to tell you that it has been when we haven't really tried it on a large scale.
Okay.
So I'll ask online first if there's any questions, but please be mindful, Mr. Roger will do a presentation here in a second. We have 3 more presentations. Are there any questions online before we go to our first presentation? Please raise your hand if there is.
No one has said anything in chat either.
Not seeing anything, we'll go straight to our work plan topics. If there's no more questions on the presenter, Ms. Sutton, thank you for your presentation. We'll go straight to Mr. Roger.
Most of you probably are somewhat familiar with this process, but each year, for those that aren't, each year we put together your annual plan with input with EDAC and EPA about topics that we feel are relevant to, and that would benefit from the input from the FSAB. This year, we have come up with 5 topics. Next slide, please. The first one, and Aaron described this some, is to discuss, to ensure that we have sufficient waste disposal capacity. As she pointed out, our current facilities roughly 80% full. We're exploring ways of trying to extend the life of that remaining capacity. And as was mentioned on September 30th, we did get a record of decision signed to start preparations for a new on-site disposal. We still need your input, though. There is still a lot of work that has to be done, and with mail that goes around and things in the newspaper, there's still a lot of input being given on this topic, and so we felt that this would be a good topic for you all to continue to monitor. Next slide, please. The next one is one that you will hear quite a bit more, hopefully over the course of the next year, and it is what we call the main plant groundwater remedy at ETTP. Main plant being the area where the majority of the production facilities, the original main plant.
1401.
Yeah, 1401, 1420, under the K25 building, near some of the old burial grounds. The photo you're looking at right there, that is the area that was inside the U. You can see the footprint of the K25 building on each side, looking south. There was a very large area that was contaminated by a VOC called TCE. We are in the process of excavating that area down to the water table, which is the way that works. There are the record of decision for that area. I believe we are currently at roughly, I want to say 30 or 40,000 cubic yards that have been excavated, and we still have maybe that much more to go. So it is a very significant dig, one of the larger ones that we've done. But there are 6 other major source areas located in the main plant area, all VOCs primarily. There are a number of.
Roger, we
Yes.
have some notes from the online folks. Can you just speak up a little?
Oh, yes. So I'm sorry. So there are, as I said, there are 6 other large VOC source areas at ETTP in addition to the one that you see on the screen. We will hopefully, we're working toward a record of decision with EPA and TDEC on that. We hope to achieve that within the next year. That will be an interim decision. After we've done that, there are a number of smaller areas that we need to evaluate and look at remedy selection on those. That will hopefully occur over the course of the next 5 to 6 years. We will see. So that's another one. Obviously, with that schedule going forward, we want to keep that in front of you all during put on that. Next slide, please. Next one is, as Aaron just described to you, is the processing 233. There's a number of reasons we want to remove this inventory. First of all, it's a safety issue. When we do the presentation for U-233, you'll learn a lot about it, but U-233 is not the kind of uranium you want to have just sitting around. It's very unstable compared to the other ones, and it's just very, very difficult to store. So we can downblend it and ship it off. That's much better. Second is because of its nature, it requires a significant security presence. It actually is one of the things, it's one of the major things that drives security at Warrenell. They would love for us to get rid of it so that they could reduce their security posture there and have a little bit more of an open campus. I'm not saying you're going to be able to drive and just go around anywhere you want, but it will be easier to go to Warrenell. Third is obviously, like we talked about, harvesting some of the daughter products off it for medical isotopes is also very advantageous. So that one hopefully over the next course of the next year, as we said, we'll begin down blending and processing some of this material. We'll keep you posted on that. Next slide, please. About 5 or 6 years ago, DOE complex wide across the entire country did an inventory of what they called excess contaminated facilities, high risk facilities. You know, Oak Ridge is not the only site that has World War II era buildings. As it turns out, though, we do have the majority of the high risk facilities located both at Y12 and Orinell. There is the condition of these buildings, they vary depending on how they've been used over the years. But the majority of the World War II era ones, they are so far beyond their lifespan that we need to get these things down and removed, and you know, so that for various reasons. One, Orinell and Y12 have other missions that things impact. We need to get at Orinell, we have buildings that have significant contamination issues that are just down the street from the supercomputers. Those don't go well together. You know, we need to take care of our problem, the problems from the past. So that would be a continuing process for the next 10 years. So we want to keep that in front of you all, with your input on that. Next up. Last one is, as always, we need your input on our budget submittals. For this year, it'll be our fiscal year 2025 that we send to headquarters. You know, input on the topics that we've just talked to, and then other areas that you all may feel are necessary. You know, maybe there's things that we did not bring up here tonight, but you feel deserve more of attention as far as it needs more budget. And that will be your opportunity to provide input on that. And that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Petrie. Do we have about 5 minutes for questions? Anyone in the room have a question for Robert? Go online. Anyone online have a question? Please raise your hand. Thank you for your presentation, as always. We'll turn it over to post-COVID Christoph.
Hopefully new and improved. I'll be back next time, I promise. He's just out of pocket today.
Absolutely. Plenty of teaching.
So I didn't bring any pictures, but conveniently a lot of our concerns are very similar to DOE's, which is fantastic. We're all working in alignment, so that makes sense. Primarily, we can start with the first one, future disposal for environmental management generated waste. So that would include, we've now got the ROD for EMDF. We want to make sure we have adequate waste facility, but we want to make sure that there were a number of things that were delayed in the ROD that they're still working on that Roger had discussed. So that includes things like the planned groundwater studies. If you're interested in that, we can definitely work on those pieces. The waste acceptance criteria that was delayed. So all of those pieces that feed into that record of decision and the protectiveness would be a great place for this group to take a look, we think. The other one that is very similar would be, he's got marked here as 3. That's East Tennessee Technology Park main plant groundwater. That was near and dear to my heart. My favorite thing. So whatever I can answer for you. But we're making good progress on the groundwater. I'm very excited about that. I think we're working together really well as a team. We've got a good path forward, I believe, for the VOC source areas. So the constituents of concern that are volatile organics, we still have metals and rads and some other contaminants that we need to continue to talk about. And the remaining spaces that need additional characterization away from those initial 6 source areas. So we intend currently to work in parallel to get those things cleaned up, and we'd be happy to have your input and feedback in those spaces. So while we're working on the VOC sources, the rest is not done then. So we still have more things we can talk about in groundwater space. So whatever I can do to help there. The excess facilities, of course, we've got lots of those things, great D&D opportunities. As always, we're concerned about the release of mercury. But so that ties in line with Roger's conversations about excess facilities. We think that's a great place to continue working. I had 2 other ones that were not necessarily the same as DOE's. One is the remediation of the contaminant sources within Bear Creek Valley. So remember when DOE did their original review of protectiveness for Bear Creek? Part of DOE's process was a composite analysis where they looked at inputs of contaminants into Bear Creek. I'll read it so I don't get it wrong here. One of the main sources of contamination entering Bear Creek will be remediated. That was the assumption included in that CA process. And so but the time frame in the look ahead schedule is still 12 years out. So those Bear Creek Valley burial grounds in that original calculation, Christoph says were included in that assessment for cleanup, but we don't see a cleanup funding schedule for 12 years. So where they're talking about where do we need input for funding, that would be a great thing to keep on the radar. The other piece that we want to keep on the radar, processing and disposition of true waste. So the sludge in the Mountain Valley storage tanks, we just don't want it to fall off the radar. So he's got all those listed in the letter that he provided. We're certainly having to provide any further information, but I think the good news is we're mostly in alignment, which is always helpful.
Thank you for your presentation.
You bet.
Any questions from inside the room?
Yes, are you talking about the 500,000 gallon storage tanks at the West Tank Farm?
I do the groundwater piece. So this is the waste management is Christoph's part. So I will default to the letter that he provided, which was transuranic sludge stored in Mountain Valley storage tanks.
Okay, that's different.
So
Okay, that's different.
does that make sense? Okay. And I can get more information
No.
and let you know.
That's okay.
Sure.
Any other questions from the room? Online, any questions, please raise your hand. Ms. Schumacher.
I did have one more question about the, in addition to the ETGP, in addition to the VOC contamination, is there not a technetium issue as well in review?
In that photo that it showed where we're doing the TCED, if you'll noted on the left side of that photo, the concrete slab that was the K25 slab ended and it turned into a big grassy area. That was an 80,000 yard excavation to remove TCE contaminated soils that were sourced to groundwater. There is, and this is one of the additional areas that we need to address with the TDEC. There is still TCE, there's still Tech 99
Right.
contamination under that area.
Right.
And Tech 99 is a difficult contaminant to address in groundwater. It's very soluble and moves very easily with the groundwater.
Any other questions online or in the gallery? Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. Go straight to EPA. Still with us?
I asked her on mute.
Yeah, sir.
I think we have a section for suggestions, members, if you want to go there.
Okay, we'll turn over and open the floor online and in the room. Are there any suggestions from any of the members on any of the presentations given tonight? Any suggestions online? We're fixing to do a roll call online, just to make sure everybody thinks So one more call, Ms. Foster with EPA. Are you with us? Ms. Melissa, can you go with the next phase or you want us to hold on? Okay.
So where we are now, we've listed the topics that DOE was interested in. We've gotten input from TDEC. We haven't officially gotten input from EPA at this point. So what we've done is in the middle part of your package, you'll see our work plan schedule, which you should be familiar with. This is where we lay out our projects. We have drafted out the topics and put them in different months. As we move from the draft, what will happen is Leon and I will sign this work plan, and that will be our schedule for this coming year. It doesn't mean things can't change because it is a working document, but what we need from you at this point, not tonight, but I want you to look through all the topics that we suggest that we look at. And if you'll see on the second to last column, there's an issue group. We need to have each member sign up for at least one issue group that is of interest to them. You are more than welcome to sign up for all of them. You can sign up for as many as you want, but we would like you to at least sign up for one. And then what will happen is as we go through the next year, we will have a meeting, a board meeting, where we discuss the topic. If a tour is planned, if it's helpful for that particular topic, we will do a topic that next week, a tour that next week. And then we will have a follow-up EM stewardship meeting where if you have additional questions on that topic, we can reach out to a project manager and have them sit with us during the EM stewardship meetings to answer those questions. At that point, looking at that particular topic, you will then make a decision if you would like to make a recommendation. If you don't think a recommendation is necessary, if you agree with what's being done and you just want to affirm what we've told you, however you want to do it, that issue group will work on that recommendation and the decision on whether you will make a recommendation. So that's how we will work through the work plan through this year. But we need you to look at these topics, weigh them out, and over the next few days to a week, Shelley and Sarah know which issues you want to be involved in. And if we don't hear from you in a week, we'll post you again because we really do want to get at least one person, get you signed up for at least one issue that you can really focus on. Because I understand as we go through the whole thing, sometimes all the topics all at once is a little too much, but you can get into one topic and really delve into it. So be thinking about that. That's the next steps, is for you to look at these topics and see if which one you really want to delve into.
So will there be meetings with the issue groups? I mean, we've talked about this before. That doesn't seem to really.
We do it separate ways. It depends on the preference of the individual issue group. What we typically do is once we set up an email chain with Sarah and Shelley and the members of that issue group, and people start kind of going back and forth via email, asking questions. Then that way we can get a subject matter expert in to help answer your questions as we go through. We do that for several weeks. If you decide that you want to do a recommendation, we help you, draft that, and that way you can, and we just we do it via email, mainly because that's been everybody's preference. But if you get down towards the end where you're really wanting to, smooth out the recommendation, we can always set up an ad hoc meeting for you to get together. But that's usually how we do, is through emails, have everybody on the same email asking their questions, and then we monitor that so that if you have a question that we don't know the answer, we can go find the right SME and get those answers to you. And then we, try to help draft a recommendation for you. But then if you need in person, we can set up additional meetings. But we found that it usually works better to do some initial email groundwork.
And we have done that in the past.
Yeah.
It's worked.
Stewardship meeting, we're gonna try to put back in person.
Yeah, the stewardship meeting will be a hybrid version, like what we're doing. But you'll have options to be in person. Now, our speakers, our project managers that we bring in for the EM stewardship meeting, for the most part, they'll probably be online, because typically when we bring them in, we don't use them but for maybe 5 minutes. So for them to stay after and come over here and then, and sometimes it's a welcome, we're glad to have you. Thank you, we don't have any questions.
Yeah.
We're putting them online to make it a little bit easier. And always, any questions you have up front, so we can get you a more detailed information by that EM stewardship meeting. We farm that out, get all that information so that you have as much information when you're trying. So that's the key, is where we are at this point. We'll be finalizing this draft work plan, and we just need to get the people signed up for the issue groups.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. As we've spoken in the past as well, typically what we've done in the past few years is the chairman of the executive, stewardship and the ORSA board automatically goes on all the boards, as well as the vice chairs and the secretary. So Michelle, if you want to go ahead and place those on, that way the members have a working knowledge of what the issue groups are doing. So that way when we come to the meetings, we can do that. So I'll encourage the other folks to do that as well. So please contact, like Ms. Melissa says, please contact one of the ladies, put your name on the list, hopefully by the first week. So that way we're not holding any of the staff up. Any public comment, Michelle?
We do not have any public comment at this time. However, one individual did submit comments for the record. So we, as the staff, will append those to the meeting minutes when those are distributed.
Okay. Last call for Ms. Foster. Do you have anything from EPA? This ends the presentation portion for the meeting. If you're a guest, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for attending. We really appreciate it. Go straight into board business. Ms. Melissa, if you don't mind, I'll let you handle the election.
Unfortunately, I've counted up and we are lacking a quorum tonight. So we cannot actually do the votes on either the officers or the meeting minutes. Okay. So we'll just hold that until next meeting. Yes.
For the county virtual as well, or we're not?
Yeah, we are. I checked with the online folks. We're still just a little bit short. We could probably still do the meeting evaluation if you want to ask people how the hybrid went. Okay.
We don't have a form. There's no sense voting on the meeting minutes. I guess we'll go closing remarks, Ms. Melissa.
Yeah, I would be interested in how this more reduced format for the annual planning meeting. We're in a situation in the past, really our annual planning meetings have gone from being a 2-day thing where we would have a presentation on a Friday night and then a full day of meetings. As we've slowly gotten into our topics, a lot of the things that we're doing, there are things that are going from year to year as we developed our 10-year plan, and as we get our new plan that is supposed to be coming out shortly, we kind of have a better roadmap we've had years ago. So I didn't know if this more reduced annual planning, I would like for you to think about that and give some feedback to Shelley, or you're welcome to give feedback tonight on how you like the reduced format. Or if you think, oh, we need to spend more time, we're wanting to do what you feel is best number that gets you the most gratification for this meeting. So be thinking about that on whether you want to go back to a longer meeting next year, or if we want to, look at staying in a more reduced format. Yes.
I've never done that before, so this is all pretty. Talking about annual planning, we have our 5 topics. Kind of being new to it, it's kind of hard to sign up for a topic when you don't know a whole lot about those 5 topics. So there's a little paragraph that kind of describes them, but maybe thinking forward, it would be really great if we could have either those project managers or some subject matter expert really give a decent high presentation on those 5 areas that we're going to be looking at. That way we kind of know what we might be really interested in kind of jumping in for that year. So it's a pretty big commitment, and it's kind of hard to make that commitment off of a paragraph. Just my.
If you allow me to speak to that, that was actually a topic that was at the chairs meeting in New Mexico. And one of the things that I could see coming was COVID has set back a little bit the dynamic that some of the veteran members were very fortunate to where we got to see the site, got to smell the site, feel the site, and we got to be presented the issue groups that we were going to actually assign for and try to promote and try to assist. I think with the lack of tours and some of the changes presentations, some of the newer members coming on has not had that full force that DOE had set up years ago to try to nurture that process along. So one of the things that was discussed at the chairs meeting was to put the responsibility a lot back on the veteran members that had been here, that had went through all the explanations I told, and try to let us, along with what DOE was offering, try to mentor the newer members to come up and say, hey, if you have a question about this, if it's something one of the veteran members could help you with, and kind of bring you up to a crash course of here's where we're at, here's what we've done, here's what DOE's been, here's their operational plan. I feel like I challenged the veteran members to step up and try to help the newer members try to take up for the COVID fall. So I don't know if that's necessarily receptive by DOE, but it was a topic that we could see. And one of the concerns was a lot of the veteran members, like ourselves, are tenuring off and reaching the majority of the 6-year term. The problem with that is it's going to leave a gap for the newer members to come in that's not got the experience the past 2.5, 3 years of getting up and getting ready for those positions. So I think DOE's done a phenomenal job of trying to battle the COVID craze, still give the presentations and keep it virtual. And I feel like this group online and in the room realizes we have a good staff, but I don't think you really realize how much our staff has done until you go to the other sites and see really behind those new members are, and the veteran members well sit on the board for 5 years. So, and I've realized this when I've traveled outside of the Oak Ridge area with DOE. I'm very appreciative because I realized Miss Melissa, Miss Shelley, and Miss Sarah are really giving us stuff that other SSAB members across the country may not know, have a clue, or anything else. So hats off to the staff. But I feel like you have a very valid question and concern, but I think it's going to take all of us to kind of help each other out. And it may be you sign in, and I apologize if Shelley or Melissa's won't be quiet. I feel like, they've helped us. They give us the books, they send us to school. I think we're going to have to work together as veteran members and new members to try to help cut that curve in half, because I think they went above and beyond to help us.
Well, also, and I failed to mention this too, we have not been doing tours.
Yeah.
But we started back. Yeah, we started doing some of the tours, and we have been looking at trying to set up a new member tour and allowing, any of the older members who wanted to come to. We were looking in November. It's just with the being at the chairs meeting, with getting back, we've not had a chance to get that all set up, but we were looking at either doing something in the November timeframe or even January or February, trying to get that new member tour that we normally would have done when you first came on. One of the things is we were hoping that some of our people that we're going to have as new members, if their packages got through, we'd be able to combine all that together. So that's what we've been kind of walking a tightrope on. Okay, how are we going to best be able to do this? But we hope to have a tour within the next couple of months to get you out there to get a little more detailed information. It's just we're going to work with Roger's schedule.
My opinion on the tour is the tour is really what seals the deal and gives you the best education. And even as a veteran member, every year we go with the new members, we see the progression that Roger and his team has done. So just looking at the photos here, we've not seen that for 2.5 years. So we noticed the impact that it's already done, that he's done in the past 2 years, that we've not been allowed to go inside the state. So it's even good, the new member to learn what we're talking about, but the veteran member to truly see where those dollars have went. What his team and his crew and DOE has done is you truly see the impact it's making. It's phenomenal when you see that building in one image and see a grass area or a new infrastructure area that's come back. I mean, that grass, $500 million. But unless you go through the process and see what Raj and his team's done, it's phenomenal. So hopefully the tours will seal the deal.
The work plan is a working document. You could sign up for budget and then all of a sudden look at something else or hear the presentation and say, oh, I didn't know that's what that's about. That's really interesting. I want to get involved in that. But, you know, for me, when we talked about, I think it's the next month, when we talk about the processing of 233, what they're doing with the medical isotopes, I think is fascinating. You know, so, you know, even if you put on that you want to do a particular one now, and then you change your mind, all you have to do is just contact us and go, hey, I've changed my mind. This thorium thing is really interesting. I want to dive in on it. We're just wanting to get people to commit to one so that we know we have people that are going to be looking at these items. And it's always, I mean, it doesn't hurt to sign up for all of them and then back off from one of them when you say that's not really what I thought it was going to be about. But yeah, I understand where you are, especially not being on the tours, but we're just trying to get people engaged in the process and get them set up for issue groups. Just because it helps us, because when we're trying to set up our email chains and get the ball rolling, we know who to start. We're not waiting until the board meeting and then having to all of a sudden, hey, we've got to get some people on the issue. So we're just trying to get people started thinking about that we will want you to be able to participate on at least one of the items.
Very good comment. I mean, a really hot topic and amongst all the different sites. Any more questions?
I was just gonna add 2 cents to appreciating people getting the badges and getting us on the buses and getting us in. But if the museum, whose name has changed so many times, I can't keep up with it, is doing public tours, is there any way that new people could just kind of go on that public tour and see some things?
Oh, you can go, yeah, you can go sign up on your own at any point. You know, absolutely. It's just, you know, we had been trying to set something up and it just hasn't. We just recently started within DOE offering outside tours and stuff. So that's when Shelley and I started looking at it, that it's time that we can start trying to get new members out. And since it had been so long for members who've been on the board a while longer, they might want to come and get a refresher with that. And then at the same time, we're trying to get our new members, you know, the package approved.
Do you have your new members? I mean, it's the package, the package seems to be like
The package, the package is closer than it's ever been.
The check in the mail.
We've gone through all the preliminary, all the way up to the White House, and they said it's good to submit formally. So now it's your. And according to headquarters, this is going to speed it through the formal process.
But their deadline is like mid-December, so if they want to stretch it out, we can't do much.
Yeah, but yeah, mid-December, we should have something. Our hope is, because it's supposed to be faster than it's ever been, we're hoping that at any point it's going to happen. But
And just FYI, the folks that are with us tonight, most of them are the potential new members who are in the package, who are giving their time even before we, you know, able to.
thank you so very much for coming tonight.
Thank you all.
So yeah, and that's why we're trying to just figure out how best to get this tour to work. If we knew that they were going to be approved within weeks, we would want to tie everybody together, because it's a great way for you to meet the new members also.
Sure.
So, but that's what's kind of holding us back on trying to get something set up, is trying to get that package through. But if we don't hear anything relatively soon, we'll probably go ahead and set up and do a tour and then do a second tour.
Yeah, do something in November and then something maybe in February.
Yeah.
So you can't bring a citizen on the tour. You have to be a member of the board for you to do what you're doing. Is that true?
Well, I'm here going to go ahead and set the new member tour up and invite them to come with us. Which I would love to do, but we don't want to step on first toes and let them think that we
Jump the gun.
automatically started to act like members were members before they had officially given us the approval.
Any questions from online? Any questions from online?
And there's one thing I would like to add about the tours. The tour that we're going to take you all on, for obvious reasons, is focused primarily on EM work. Now, as we've talked about in the past, part of the reason EM has all this work demonstrated tonight is to enable the mission of ORNL and Y-12 to continue. And we will talk a little bit about that. You will see a little bit of that on the tour that we give you. The tour that you get at the museum, I would encourage you to go on that because they actually will, a lot of parts of that tour are very much focused on ORNL mission. I believe they take you in now for a tour of the things like that. I don't know if you actually get to go in SNS, but you will drive by it and it's worth looking at. It's an impressive facility. And then you'll get a little bit more in-depth information on Y-12. And in my opinion, the more you understand about what their mission is, it will help you understand why, what EM is doing, why that is so important. I just want to.
I agree totally, and he's correct. Any of the sites you go, the presenter that's on the bus with you explains to you in detail what our topic is, what their mission has been, and what their mission is in the future. Presentation is the tool, not just that. It's the presenter that's on the bus stop.
Leon, we do have one question online from Mr. Tapp.
Mr. Taft, go ahead, John.
I just wanted to let you know I woke up in time to sign off. But short of that, my kudos to the team that put together the virtual meeting. It worked really well. So you should be complimented for your efforts.
Yeah, special thanks to everybody that did put this together. Thank you for letting us meet back in person, but still have the hybrid option. I know y'all worked a long time for it. It's good to see Bonnie finally come out of retirement.
Yeah.
So our next meeting by the list, if I read it correctly, Ms. Shelley, is November the 9th. Will be another hybrid meeting. Is that correct?
That is the plan, yes.
Okay, and then of course, there's no EM meetings until possible if needed in January, and I'm sure that'll be decided at that time.
I want y'all to have a nice stress-free Thanksgiving.
Or joking, or stress-free.
So anything else to come before the board tonight? Special thanks to the presentations, thanks to the staff. Anything else before we close?
Just send us your thoughts, feelings about the hybrid.
If you have complaints, send them to me. Don't bother the staff.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. Have a good evening.